You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Tumbly Drunk, and tonight on episode 188, we'll be taking a look at a recent PlayStation blog interview with some of the dev team. We will update you on the status of patch 1.43, share our thoughts on the latest Overwatch League offseason moves, and of course, we had a little bit of off-season action in regards to the Shanghai Masters Invitational, which saw all four of the Chinese Overwatch League teams compete in. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, let me just quickly thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show. And of course, I have to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Ed. You know, we still had a pretty hectic week, you know, with the holiday and everything. Kind of been a little bit of a lull in regards to off-season moves, but, you know, some of the stuff that we did get this week, I have to say, like, probably more than what we were initially anticipating, knowing that basically the offices were going to be closed for, you know, like 4 or 5 days, basically.
Yeah, we basically, like, at least I expected this episode to kind of be, all right, we got about like 20, 30 minutes to kill. Let's pop out of Heroes Never Die. I did not expect this to have really any information, and we got a little bit more than expected. We'll go like what you said. But it's been super hectic with the holiday weekend, with the traveling, with the Hearthstone Battlegrounds play, the rumors, the you know, all that stuff, the infuriating Battlegrounds. But this was when I was going to tell my Edinar story. But I'm not going to do that. Because I have been challenged to make a top 5 Christmas movie list. Okay? Spoiler, Die Hard not on the list.
Well, like, based on your argument, I would not have expected it to be on your list.
So number 1, no, we'll go number 5. Number 5, The Santa Claus. The one with Tim Allen. Still a great one. That's a controversial one. Number 4, National Lampoon Christmas Vacation. Like, you know. Number 3, Elf. Number 2, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one. And then number 1, Muppet Christmas Carol. Greatest movie of all time. It had everything. It had the Muppets. It had Oscar-winning actors. It had good music. It is far and away number 1 for me.
I will
that
say
is my top 5.
Muppets Christmas Carol is by far my favorite.
Yeah. Like, everyone who's like, oh, I love Muppet Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And no Christmas Carol has come close to it.
Oh.
And they make a lot of Christmas Carol movies. Like, there's one every 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, Muppet Christmas Carol, number 1.
Right on.
Do you have one?
Not offhand.
Right.
But you know, we are watching scary movies that are holiday influence all month for Twisted Tuesday. So I'll do top 5 Christmas-themed scary movies, okay?
So, Nightmare Before Christmas.
And that's like, wait, there's more than just these two?
Yeah, Gremlins and Nightmare Before Christmas. That's the only 2 that are out there.
All right. So, starting at number 5. Ooh, man, this is gonna be. I'm trying to think what order I want to put them in. I put Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's one of the more staple Christmas movies out there, at least in that genre.
Never even heard of it.
Number 4, I'll go with Sint, which is another one of the foreign ones, which deals a lot more with like the folklore behind Saint Nicholas. Number 3, what I talked about earlier in the Discord, Better Watch Out, which has the throwback to Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
top two. Two, I would put Gremlins in this, just because like it's still a family movie, but it still blurs the line in regards to being a scary movie. Just
Yeah,
because
kind of
like
the original Jurassic
where else
Park.
are you seeing like creatures decorating their houses by painting their victims with Christmas lights?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like the first Jurassic Park is kind of like a scary type movie
Mm-hmm.
with like its jump scares and the Velociraptors. I get it. So yeah, that fits. What's number one?
Black Christmas, the original.
Okay.
Still holds the top one. I will give honorable mentions to things like Krampus, which is very entertaining, holiday horror, kind of like Trick or Treat, in that route.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
And well, like, see, I would put that in like the animation side more so than scary movies.
I still want them to do a shot-for-shot remake of Home Alone, but in like a horror flick,
Mm-hmm.
like everything. So like instead, like the tarantula, when the tarantula lands on his head, instead of him just brushing it off, it literally will decapitate someone.
Mm-hmm.
When they grab the hot door handle, like their hand burns off, like just some crazy stuff, but shot for shot. That's what I want. I would still not watch it, but it'd be really cool to have.
Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for like a really unique scary movie that's Christmas themed, check out Rare Exports. It's another one of the indie ones that is from overseas. But it is the holiday season, so of course, just as a reminder, we do have a Christmas special coming up that will release on December 24th as a network special. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about what's been going on in regards to Overwatch. So I did have a recent interview that was done for the PlayStation blog, and this is with the assistant game director, Aaron Keller, as well as the lead writer, Michael Chu, who also has been pretty busy with the short stories here as of late. So this primarily kind of focused on what we can expect to see in regards to Overwatch 2. So I'll be honest, like there wasn't a whole lot to this interview as a whole. They talked a little bit about cosmetics, what to expect from things like the campaign and the overall story, and they're basically like looking to tell a complete story with the campaign, something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So like, going back to like the story missions, like we saw like the different cutscenes that they had. That's something that we could expect to see across the board for these missions, so it's not just like a one and done type thing. But the big focus on this interview was in regards to kind of like the map design and what we can expect to see with the sequel on that front. So according to Aaron Keller, the maps in the sequel, and I'm going to air quote that sequel, just because like they're trying to redefine what exactly that is, he said like they're almost 2 times the size of the ones that we currently have in Overwatch. And then he goes on to talk about like some of the new technology that's been in play that kind of like allows the development team to add different dynamic weather effects, lightning, explosions, things like that. So Ed, kind of like going back to what we have seen, at least from our hands-on experience at BlizzCon, did you feel like the maps that we got to play were about twice the size of what we've seen so far?
I mean, no. So the PVE map we played, where was that? Was that Brazil?
Yeah, that was Rio de Janeiro.
That did not seem big at all. Like it just didn't. It seemed no bigger than, I don't know, Hollywood. It didn't seem much bigger than that. Even if it didn't even seem that big. Maybe he's talking more from the PVE aspect of it. Sorry, the PvP push one, that was Rio de Janeiro. The PvE one we did, that was longer. But
Toronto was the push map.
Toronto was the push map. But the Rio de Janeiro didn't seem that much longer, but we've had maps that big before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the Omnic Crisis, like PvE scenario we had, where you kind of have to go through the hallways, around the corners, like kind of progress your way down the streets. It seemed about that length. Because like you push through, you get to a boss, you push through to the next point, get to a boss, so on and rinse and repeat. So but those aren't maps available in Overwatch. So I can see them thinking it might be twice as big because it's not a playable map in Overwatch. I think they hit a technicality point on this one. Like technically it's not playable. So it is twice as big, but even then it just didn't seem that big.
And that kind of like leads into a question of whether or not those story maps would be playable in something like a custom game. Because like we've seen like these elimination maps, capture the flag, things like that, that are PvP modes being able to be played through the game browser whenever you're doing a custom game. I wonder if we're going to see anything with that in regards to the story mission maps in particular.
Yeah, I mean, God, you would think that it'd be in workshop and all that stuff and custom games, but you just don't know because it's not balanced for any of that. So there's gonna be, you know, bad locations and stuff like that. So maybe they keep it out of custom games, but they include it in workshop. I don't know. Who knows? It's still like a year away at this point.
Right, and it does kind of like question like what exactly we would be able to play with in a workshop should they add that to, in regards to like bot behavior, things like that, because those aren't designed with PvP in mind, from the get go. But getting back to like the new tech that is going to be in play, we did kind of see some footage of some of the dynamic weather in effect. But like they haven't really said like this is for sure gonna come into play or affect the gameplay or anything like that. I mean, even going back to Storm Rising, was that the one with the hurricane where everything was like kind of going crazy over on Rialto?
Yes.
Like at the end of the map, like we never really got to see anything kind of transfer over from that or impact how the game is played. It looked cool, but it really didn't do anything. So who knows whether or not this new tech is going to allow them to kind of differentiate based off of what we've already seen on that front. But another thing that they touched up on was, like they mentioned like some of these other maps that we're gonna see, which we only saw like minor glimpses of at BlizzCon. It was basically like just still images of maps like Monte Carlo as well as Gothenburg, which are both mission maps. So I really cannot wait to just kind of like dive into the PvE side just to see like how true of an expansion is this going to be, or sequel, whatever you want to label it, because like they keep hyping it up to be more massive than what everyone is kind of anticipated. And at this point, like we just need to see whether or not they're going to be able to deliver the goods on that front, especially if they're going to be throwing a hefty price tag on it, because that's still one of the big unknowns up to this point.
Yeah, I don't get where they're coming from. I mean, they know more than we do, and they know what exactly will be coming out, or a rough idea, because for the game is not fully finished. Overwatch 2 is not fully finished. That we know. But they have a very good idea of what's going to be in it. And yeah, it could be way bigger than what people think. Sure, fine, dandy, but bigger doesn't mean better. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know if having all this stuff to do will actually keep people interested. Or, because even not having the Overwatch League right now, you just see a giant dip in people playing Overwatch. Giant dip. And they can't have that. So, not with Overwatch 2 coming out. So it will be interesting to see how they release this information, what they kind of I mean, I fully expect them to start slowly drip feeding us the features, gameplay footage, stuff like that, slowly building up to like the announcement of, hey, this is when it's releasing, type of thing, just to build up the excitement and kind of give us a grasp of how big it's going to be. Because right now they're telling us, all right, you have 3 PvE missions, some story missions that you know nothing about, and there's a new PvP mode. That is kind of all we know. And I gotta say, it doesn't seem that big to me. But obviously, there's more to it than that.
Right.
So I'll be interested to see what they do here. Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll go with that.
So also in this interview, they were touching up on how cosmetics are going to be in regards to Overwatch 2. So we already know, like, something that we learned at BlizzCon is that all of our skins, the cosmetics that we have unlocked over the course of Overwatch, are going to transfer over from Overwatch to Overwatch 2. So, that comes regardless of whether or not you... Like, if you buy Overwatch 2, everything carries over. And if you don't buy Overwatch 2, you're still getting the upgraded system. Or the upgraded client, so to speak. You're just locked from the PvE content. But you'll still be able to unlock stuff, obviously, cosmetic-wise, on that front. But something they specifically noted on was in regards to character designs for Lucio, who has seen dynamic looks that are going to be changing based off of whatever song he is currently playing in the game. So they noted that Lucio's hair and the visual effects on his suit are going to change in color, based on the beat that he plays, and for some reason, his hair glows in the dark. I don't know why that's practical.
It's like, the best way I can describe it via podcast to listeners is, think spaghetti that is nuclear. But like, comic book nuclear. Like, you
so it's
glow
like plutonium.
green. Yeah, plutonium. Like... but a piece of spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
That is what his hair looks like. And you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, that does not sound appealing. And you are correct, sir. It is not. It looks really weird. Like every other graphic update they did, out of this world. The Lucio thing, I'm still shaking my head at. Like, just give me a skin that covers up his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be content. Like, does the hockey one, the hockey one, he has a helmet on for that.
Right.
See, I'll just be using that.
There you go.
But then will the plutonium spaghetti glow out from underneath the helmet? These are the important things. I don't need story mode. I need plutonium riddled spaghetti here.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keller also noted that the suit is also going to change whenever Lucio drops sound barrier. To what effect, we don't know. But, it's worth noting, this is not the first time we have seen dynamic changes in regards to Lucio in the game, based on whatever current song he's actually playing, because with his jazz skin, it changes the tempo and the sound of the trumpet that he plays with that skin in particular. Now, everything else on that front doesn't really change. But it's just the music that he plays in that moment. So we've kind of got a glimpse of it already, but this is just going to be to a different scale at this point with Overwatch 2. Now... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we get that with other characters, too. Mm-hmm. Different... a lot of times they change the basic sounds of the characters, really, based on the skin. Like, the most recent one is Lego Bastion.
Mm-hmm. Same with, the Hanzo Wolf skin. Another one.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So we've seen it throughout, but this is by far the most drastic we've ever seen, by far. Still not good.
All right, so let's go ahead and update everyone on the new patch. Obviously, this is something that we've kind of talked about in the past with patch 1.43. This is one that nerfs shields across the board, basically. And there was an article that was posted on Dexerto that noted kind of a leaked email that was being sent to contenders teams that showed that the next patch was going to be delayed until mid-January. And everyone's kind of like, whoa, hold up the phone, what's going on? That can't be right, because obviously we got Winter Wonderland coming up. It is December, after all. And luckily today, our death and savior, Papa Jeffrey Kepkep, praise him.
Praise him.
He took to the Overwatch forums to give us a lowdown on when we can expect patch 1.43. So Jeffrey, bless him, he says, we've been seeing quite a bit of misinformation being spread about our December patch, that being 1.43. The patch is scheduled to go live next week. Short of some unforeseen circumstance causing a delay, we're expected to go live with the patch next week. I'm guessing everyone is as excited as we are for the changes to go live as soon as possible, along with Winter Wonderland. So there you go, patch next week. Balance updates, shield nerfs, Winter Wonderland, the return of the most boring event brawls in the history of the game.
You're not wrong.
For an event that you and I really like, the brawls.
Yeah, no, they're pretty trashed here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's not ever play those. Just saying.
Like, if there's a bonus loot box, I'll consider it. But
Yeah,
if
I wouldn't even do that.
If it's not like a one win and I'm done, and I have to queue again, then absolutely not.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yeah, no. I don't even know if I do it for a loot box.
Mm-hmm. I guess it will depend on the skins.
Exactly, and this is one of the longer events because I think it goes on for 4 weeks.
And we haven't had any teasers as of yet either.
Yeah, so we haven't had any teasers. It usually goes on for about 4 weeks. I'm wondering what they're going to do is like their weekly. Because they seem to be doing that, get your 9 wins to get the skin, and then you have the other ones on top of that, so should be fun times.
I can already tell, like, my dog is stuck on a couch again, and he's constantly barking downstairs. So yeah, that's good times. Apologies about that, he's an idiot. So I'm excited, obviously we got the patch next week. We'll gloss over the patch notes again, update you guys on what all the balance changes are. And of course, we'll break down all the cosmetic stuff that is coming with Winter Wonderland as well. But is there anyone in particular outside of Sigma, because we already know he's getting a new skin, who are you hoping is going to be getting a skin, whether it is a legendary or other quality?
Maybe Reaper. I could see Reaper maybe getting one. The ones that I pray to God we don't get is No Mercy skin, No Tracer skin.
Mm-hmm.
We got some really good ones out there already because you got Roadhog with the reindeer. You have Yeti Winston. Does Reinhardt have one really?
He might. The only other major one that comes to mind to me is like the Krampus Junkrat.
You got Krampus Junkrat. You got May has one.
Or she turns into a snowman.
Yeah, obviously Mercy has one.
Yeah, that's the Sugar Plum.
Tracer has one.
That being the elf skin.
Yeah. I know there's more out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's, Dad. And, like, they did, like, Dad Soldier. Like, with the grilling out soldier. I believe that is a Christmas skin. For some reason. I believe that is a holiday skin. It's some form of holiday skin. But yeah, no, I kind of hope that Reaper gets one. I know Farah has one too. She has Frostbite.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that Reaper, maybe Moira. Moira wouldn't be a bad one. Baptiste needs some. I would say like Orisa or Hammond, but they got kind of the non-skin treatment.
Right.
And Zarya. So Zarya has an awesome emote. So does Orisa. And then Hammond has the Christmas lights where he shocks himself. So, like, they got those. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Moira, Reaper. Baptiste. That's who I'm hoping.
Yeah, I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to do another Christmas comic as well this year, because that's something that they've done in the past. Or, like if maybe we'll see some more Christmas carols pop up over the next couple of weeks as well, as some of the other creators have done.
So I'm looking right now. You have Biathlon Widowmaker, Figure Skater Symmetra, Krampus, You have Snow Fox for Lucio, Sugar Plum Fairy for Mercy, Snowboarder for Zarya, and then Reinhardt does have Festive, Bastion has the gift wrap, also has Avalanche, Alpine 76. There's a Winter Ash one. Let's see, Beach Rat. That's who I'm thinking of. It's Beach Rat is a winter skin, a holiday skin, not the soldier one. Yeah, like I'm looking at a lot here. Zenyatta, I don't think has one. Oh, Nutcracker. How did we forget about Nutcracker? How did we forget about that? And I mean, McCree has Scrooge, which is a great one. So yeah, really, Reaper kind of sucks. Ferris kind of sucks. And Hanzo sucks. And Soldier. So yeah, they could definitely use some.
All right, well, let's go ahead.
And that's the end art on the holiday skins.
Yeah, a quick event in review.
Event in review.
So.
Oh, I forgot about the Torbjorn My Baby turrets. Okay, I'm done.
Torbjorn has enough babies, Ed. Okay, like he needs to pack it in at this point. There's too much going on there.
He needs a forced vasectomy.
Basically. He's been keeping busy.
Bastion can be his cock block. No?
I mean, can work. But
so
anyway.
everyone's like, I'm gonna go make a baby, and then
Torb's like, hey, don't.
That is my Bastion impression.
And Torb's just like, hey, watch your mouth. We have no idea what the heck Bastion is saying at that point.
Mood killed.
Absolutely. So, obviously we're in the Overwatch League off-season. We've had a couple of things happening on that front. We had a recent announcement in regards to Enlar, who says that he's going to be retiring after he parted ways with the Atlanta Reign here in November. So, one of the reasons behind this decision was due to disagreements that he had with the team's coaching staff, where he cited that there was a overall lack of communication from the coaching staff about the current contract status that he has, and, it's basically the primary reason behind his decision on this front. So basically what happened was Enlar was basically warned about his release, and this was near the end of the tryout process. This was on November 6th. And due to that short notice, it made things hard for Enlar to be able to be picked up by another Overwatch League team. And of course, they had Sephi, the head coach of the Atlanta Reign, kind of chiming in on the situation. Where he said, it was 100% our intention to re-sign Enlar until we were able to secure Sharp at the very last minute. Sharp basically getting picked up from Team Envy. And, it seemed like, for the most part, they weren't really expecting to get Sharp, signed on the paper at this point. So Sephi had basically gone out of his way to try to get Enlar some late shrouds. Unfortunately, he was only able to secure 2 at that point, but he was having to deal with high pain because at the time he was in Russia, because it is the off-season. And, there was a comment from Sephi about team options in his tweets, about how he would prefer a system that disallows player sign-ins until all options have been pursued. Now, Ed, I know, going back to roster construction, they kind of, noted team options when it comes to the free agency window, and, it seems like this was there, but it wasn't really enforced. So I don't know if there was, some loophole in regards to the wording, or just how it was being told to the Overwatch League teams, but, we've been hearing about sign-ins before, team options in a lot of cases for some of these Overwatch League teams. It just kind of makes you wonder, what exactly is going on behind the scenes that is causing them to just kind of overlook what could just be a gross insight at this point?
Well, I mean, there was never really a restriction on signing contenders players. Like, really, they could sign contenders players whenever they feel like it. There was no restriction. There's no blackout period where they can't sign somebody from Runaway or something like that. So I can't remember before the options were decided any Overwatch League signings that were not already from like predetermined they're going to get dropped. So I don't know. Like, this is a clear cut case of, and Layer's pissed, but sucks to be you. This is the nature of the business. Like, I mean, let's be real. The coach all but confirmed that basically everything he said was true.
Right.
But he's like, what do? We planned on re-signing him, but then we were able to get this much better DPS player, and we weren't contractually obligated to re-sign him. That, honestly, to me, that falls more on Endlayer than anything. Because the team can promise you anything they frickin' want, but until you guys put pen to paper, this is all, everything's fair game. Mm-hmm. And yes, it sucks, but it is just one of those things you have to deal with. Truly, like, I do agree with Sephi, though, that I think there needs to be more stricter rules regarding the offseason, because it's a shit show. Like, we still don't know some of the teams, and people are out there doing like practice, like, you know, like we'll talk about this with the Invitational over in China. Like, teams are playing each other now, and we don't even know who's on the team. Like, we don't know who the full teams are, stuff like that. So this is just, it's pure chaos. This was a very badly run off season. But with the case with the Endlayer, he just got caught up in the business. It happens. Like, you talk to some of these backup NFL players, backup NBA players, stuff like that. It happens all the time. I mean, one of the biggest things is, and I know I talk about the NFL a lot, but one of the biggest things with the NFL draft is teams will tell people, we're taking you with this pick in the draft. And then they plan on that. And then the pick comes to them, somebody else fell to them. Well, sucks to be you. No pen to paper. You're shit out of luck. We're going to pick this other person. You're going to fall and lose a couple $1 million. Like, you hear about a couple of those every year in the NFL draft. This is the same situation, just with less money. So, I don't know. Needs more clarification from the Overwatch League, but right now, Atlanta did nothing wrong. They didn't. They're doing what's best for their brand and for their business and for their team. The team is better off right now without Endlayer on the team, because they were able to sign Chuck. Like, that is a much better signing. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and a lot of things have been kind of like called into question this offseason, more so on kind of like the agent side, where like, a couple of people out there have just been like not really doing as much as they should for their clients. So like, we really don't know whether or not that was partially to blame for anything like this. But at the end of the day, regardless of if you were on the bench or if you are a starter, like, you need to put yourself in the best position to secure a job for the next season. So regardless of, if you're a team option or not, like, obviously in Layer was, like, there were other players out there that were already posting their LFTs saying like, hey, like, I'm still with X team, but I'm free to pursue other offers. And then, they were putting their name out there, and Endlar was just one of those players that did not opt to do that, and it came back to bite him in the ass. So, yes, it's a shitty situation, but this is something that we are going to see year to year, basically, at this point. Mm-hmm. But you do not ever want to leave anything to chance.
No.
Especially with, kind of like what's at stake here, because, being in the Overwatch League compared to what some academy teams are even paying down in contenders, which I know, Yiska was kind of hinting at was pretty lowball at like only a couple $100. Like, yeah, I'm gonna put myself in the best spot to retain my spot, whether it is with the Atlanta Reign or on another team in the Overwatch League. Don't just have it be where like you need a staff member like having to go out of their way just to try to get you something last minute, when at that point you're already putting yourselves at such a disadvantage over the rest of the field anyway. So it sucks for Enlar, but I mean, based off of what we know, he might not even be back next season just because of how late of tryouts he was getting at this point, and he only had 2 anyway. So it's a tough spot to be in. It sucks, but shit like this happens.
Yeah, it sucks. Atlanta, the coaching staff, if what they said is true, they actually went beyond what they're really kind of like. What is their duty? What is their job? They went above that to try and help them out, but they had to make their best decision, and they're paid the price.
Right, and I do quickly want to note that I know Sephi guessed it on Tactical Crouch this week, so I don't know how much of this they brought up, but for more insight on his coaching experience, things like that, be sure to check out his guest spot on that front. But speaking of the Overwatch League, actually quite a bit of news coming out of Vancouver in particular. So last week we had talked about the return of the King, Fisher coming back to the Overwatch League. And one of the biggest questions from the community was what exactly is going to happen with Fisher, knowing that he had basically, after he left the league, leaked the role lock coming in Stage 4 of 2019. Well, Fisher's actually been fined $3,000 USD for leaking details about role lock. And, in the discipline tracker, whatever the heck they're calling it, the fine itself was listed for sharing confidential leak information. And, this is the first punishment of its kind to be handed down in the Overwatch League. But, we're not seeing any suspension for Fisher, which, honestly, just based off of what we know right now, is probably in the best interest for Vancouver, seeing as, there was a pretty big news thing that kind of dropped the day after Fisher was signed.
Yeah, good thing for Fisher, or for the Titans. I mean, you had to know that something was going to happen to Fisher. The league wasn't just going to not punish him for leaking that big of a thing to everyone. Especially when he's basically, it's not like, he's like, screw it, I'm not in the league anymore, and basically was spitting in the face of the Overwatch League. And then said it. It wasn't like a leak. It was more of a spite thing. So yeah, no, I'm totally fine with this. He deserved it. I don't think it's worth suspension, like suspending him games. So I think the fine will do just fine. Long live Fisher.
Yes, long live the King. And a day following the sign-in of Fisher, the Titans opted to part ways with their other main tank, Bumper. So, looking back, Bumper had joined the Titans along with the rest of that championship runaway roster, who won Contenders Korea Season 2 of that prior year. But, he did have his role taken away in the Overwatch League playoffs by Tizzy, who was also released during this off-season window. And, Bumper, at this point, is the 4th player to be split from the Vancouver Titans this offseason. So, this is going to be a completely different-looking Titans team. Now, granted, some of these releases on this team this offseason were some of their backup players. But, they go out, they pick up Fisher, who, for a lot of people, is probably the biggest wild card in the league. Because, there's a lot of unknown still with Fisher. Like, how much is he actually going to want to be here? Is he actually going to stick, throughout the the entirety of the season, because that really hasn't happened yet. But then you look at the schedule, and like the first match is with the Gladiators, so you kind of have like that grudge match right out of the gate for Fisher against a former team. But right now, like everyone's just kind of like wondering, is this team going to pick up another main tank to sit behind Fisher? And is this just a situation where they felt like the playstyle was too similar between both Fisher and Bumper to not warrant having both of them on the same roster?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is they couldn't afford both of them. Like, they couldn't afford both Bumper and both Fisher. And I think the skill goes to Fisher in this case. But with all of that, I don't get why they got rid of Tizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he probably wasn't that expensive, because it's not like he's an in-demand tank at the moment. Or even at the time of them signing him, he wasn't an in-demand tank. And he knows the system, he knows the players, and yeah, he can just be the backup. So I don't know. I don't know why they didn't keep Tizzy, but I would assume that they go out and sign a new backup main tank after getting rid of Bumper. I'm surprised Bumper hasn't signed yet. That's something that's kind of crazy. But there are teams out there that still need main tanks. Fusion come to mind. Shanghai comes to mind. I think those are the two most popular destinations out there.
I mean, Shanghai do have 12 on their roster. Keep that in mind.
They do, but Envy's on the team, and I think they want to get rid of Envy. So who knows? It's one of those things where Bumper will end up on a team. Fisher is obviously the go-to main tank. They just need to sign another tank for Vancouver, because they have a very small roster at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Very small roster. So I don't even know if they have 8. Do they? With Bumper release, so they have the two tanks. They have 3 support now. Oh, they have exactly 8, because they have Sumansu, Haxel, and who's the other DPS? Who's their McCree player?
Stitch.
So you got those
DPS along with
Sumansu, and then you have
another side.
Who was the other thing that happened with Vancouver?
Well, another thing that was strongly rumored was the addition of former Seoul Dynasty Flux support Ryo Jaehan. So Jaehan found a new team with Vancouver, so they do have 8 players currently under contract for the Titans. So obviously Jaehan, long history with the Seoul Dynasty. Prior to that, Lunatic High, another storied franchise in Overwatch Korea, much like Runaway. So this is going to mark the first time that Lunatic High support line of Jaehan and Toby are going to be playing on different teams. And this is dating all the way back to August of 2016. So now the question becomes, well, was this kind of like a package deal between Fisher and Jaehan? Does Fisher kind of have like the Titans' ear where he wanted to bring Jaehan into the picture? And if so, what is that going to mean for playtime? Because obviously they still have Twilight on this lineup. Both are starter capable. So yes. Is it going to be a 50-50 split? Is Fisher going to prefer to have Jaehan in there just due to the fact that they already have that sort of synergy? What's going to happen on this front remains to be seen. But all I know is, Ed, you talked a lot about fantasy and Ryo Jaehan with the Overwatch League this past season and how it was a gamble.
Yes.
Do you feel like now it's worsened by the addition of him on the Titans, knowing that the split is going to potentially be kind of all over the place?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you kind of almost have to, because I don't think they signed Jaehan to replace Twilight. It's like signing Jaehan to replace Jonak. It's not happening. Do I think I think Jae-hong. So I'll start with this. I think Jae-hong wanted to go to a team that he knew was really good. He could have gone to another team and gotten more play time, but I think Vancouver gave him the best mix of our team's going to be very good, because I don't think anybody doubts that they will be good. Probably top 5 in the league again. But I think with this and what we're kind of seeing is, I wouldn't even say it's going to be a split between him and Twilight. I think it's going to be a 3-way split between Twilight, Jae-hong, and Slime, where you could start seeing some of this. Well, what if we want to play Anna, Moira? Something like that, where we're seeing Twilight and Jae-hong both on the field at the same time. And then Slime rides the bench, because maybe they don't need a Mercy, maybe they don't need Lucio, type of situation. So it will be interesting to see how they use it. Like, I compare this support lineup now to what a lot of teams are doing with their DPS. They're getting like 3 legit DPS, and then they're just using that flexibility to their advantage. And I mean, you saw it perfection from it last year with the San Francisco Shock. The flexibility is what kind of won Shock the championship, and they saw that. Titans saw that firsthand, and now they want to start doing the same thing. So this is just a nice step. So Jae-hong will get play time, probably not as much play time as he could, but he's like the wise old veteran that signs with a team that is very likely going to be competing for a championship, because he wants to get that ring. He wants to get that title before he retires. So,
and he has a better chance with Vancouver.
I don't know anymore.
But at this point, will the London-based Seoul Dynasty be in a better position? Because that's a lot of big names on that team. But, it does kind of, continue, just being on a storied, family-oriented team, like he will be with the Titans on this front. But, right now, all we know is, very likely split time, potential backup main tank.
I forgot about Raije Kong. How could I forget about that? I know.
It was short-lived.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't good.
No, it was not. So let's not do that, please. Once was enough. But anyways, speaking of the Korean scene, let's take a look at what's going on with contenders in regards to Philadelphia Fusion. So it seems like Fusion University is basically seeing a ton of reconstruction ahead of the next contender season. So gone is the Fusion University name. In its place, we have T1, who is a Korean esports organization entering the fold for the 2020 season. So this is a joint venture between Comcast, Spectacor, and SK Telecom. And, looking back, Fusion Uni did not have a good track record in Contenders Korea after they completely decimated the NA scene for consecutive seasons. Well, yes, they did, in fact, make the playoffs in Korea. They got knocked out pretty early. So, yeah, since then, we've seen a number of the Fusion University players get picked up during the Overwatch League off-season. 2 of which had, gone to the London Spitfire. Alarm got promoted. There were a couple of others as well. But what we do know right now is that no player or coach is set to move from Fusion University to T1 for the upcoming season of Contenders Korea, as this is basically, by definition, a complete rebuild from scratch. So, didn't work out in their last venture. So, how do you think they're going to fare now, knowing that this is going to be a completely brand new team from top to bottom, both players and coaches?
Well, I think they're actually going to do just fine, because it's the rebranding is more of to start getting some of the Korean talent to come actually sign on to play with them. One thing we have to remember is, and this is why it's kind of a big deal and not that big of a shock, is while it is Fusion's contenders team, it is a joint venture with a Korean telecom team, telecom company. So it's like we have an American or a US based team with Korean contenders team and Korean ownership. And if you remember when they announced the geolocation, contenders teams had to be in the same country that their teams were, unless they put up like they would have to pay for housing and stuff like that. They basically had to have all Korean. They couldn't just, all right, you guys are gonna play for Fusion Uni from America, but pay for here to be on your own. You have to really take care of them, and this allows them to do that with a Korean company already over in Korea. Because really, there's only one other contenders team in Korea, so it's the biggest market for contenders for Overwatch League players is Korea, but only one contenders team. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer. So this was really smart by the Fusion to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Fusion Uni is dead. It basically was just a rebranding and just replace everyone. They just starting from scratch because they had to start from scratch because everyone was off the team. There was no one who was left on the team.
Car.
And
Sniller, basically.
Yeah. So it's the perfect time to do this because everyone else is gone. So now they can, build a Korean team with a Korean company that has ties to the Overwatch League.
I can officially retire the banned FU jersey.
No, you have a collector's item. You have, if Overwatch League kind of stays to be this big thing in like 10 years, you could probably sell that online for a hell of money.
Mm-hmm.
Which you should.
It'd be the only good thing Zachary's ever done.
Hey, he was good on Fusion Uni. And he brought us the ultimate Overwatch League mom.
Mm-hmm.
Zachary's mom is like the ultimate Overwatch League mom.
Yeah. So, outside of the Fusion news, we do have a couple other sign-ins in the Overwatch League. So the Paris Eternal have picked up Montreal Rebellion off-tank Smex. So, Smex has basically just been committed in contenders, and he's actually been making the playoffs in every season he's played in since joining contenders. So, going back, he was with Energy Esports. That was back in early 2018. And then that team disbanded back in May, and he would go on to join the Montreal Rebellion, which is a Toronto Defiant Academy team, in June. So, what does this move basically mean for Paris Eternal? One, yes, they have Hanbin on the roster. He turns 18 after the second game of the season. So, right now they at least have an off-tank player on their roster that they can field right out of the gate that isn't like a former off-tank turned DPS like Nico, which would have been the other option. But this signing basically comes like roughly a week after there was a picture floating around of Cruz and Smex together in Korea, because we do know like some of the teams are out in Korea boot camping, getting some scrims in, all of that good stuff right now. But like, this is clearly just a backup sign-in outside of the first 2 matches of the season for the Eternal.
Yeah, it's exactly right what it is. This is a non-consequential signing. This is a backup player signing. Yeah, that's really it. There's not much to it. He's not gonna light anyone on fire, like the world on fire. He's not gonna light anyone on fire. He's not gonna light the world on fire playing. He's just there to play for 2 games, if that. Like, honestly, if that. because they may just run double tank with no smite in there.
Yeah, I mean,
double
if
shield.
it's double shield
Double
with
shield.
Reinhardt, Orisa, that is the possibility for sure.
Yeah, so there's no even guarantee that he'll play, but you need that depth. So, yeah, yay!
More money in his pocket.
Exactly. Like, this is
if
good
he's
for
playing or not.
It was. There could have been some smexier pickups, but
They need to just have Smex and Jahan 1v1. That needs to be one of the 1v1s.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think that's gonna happen. But you got Specs and then Jahan, who just goes by Sexy on Twitter.
But it's just weird. But okay.
I know. I mean, that's just, I don't know why he branded that. It's just, that's a thing. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's still happening.
Yes, it is.
And you know what else is happening, Ed?
What is that?
Us no longer have the question, where are you? About who are you? He is no longer on loan anymore, which has been an ongoing thing for quite some time. Because, he was on the aforementioned Fusion University at one point. And then Fusion Uni's just like, yeah, you can go play for this other team. So it was on, Meta Athena for a while. So Who Are You is joining the Overwatch League, and he is joined as the 5th DPS player on the New York Excelsior.
Mm-hmm.
So, with New York, no changes to their damage lineup outside of this edition, so they're still all in place on that front. So he will join SBB, Nene, Libero, and Pine in this DPS rotation. It's a lot of competition on that front, and Pine didn't even see play in the second season, just due to all of the meta changes. So I'm happy to see, finally, Who Are You is entering the league. This has been something that has been long rumored, and this is a projectile DPS player through and through, primarily known for probably Genji more so than anything else, and that dates all the way back to Lunatic High days back in 2017 through 2018, when he was on that roster as well. But, this is a very crowded field on the New York Excelsior, so what sort of role do you think he's going to be filling in, or do you feel like he's just going to get kind of lost in the shuffle on that team?
I mean, do they have another Genji? Is SBB really a Genji player?
Not really.
And I mean, Libero, not really.
Libero is their only other projectile DPS on paper.
Yeah, but he's also the jack of all trades player.
He's their flex DPS.
Yeah, so I could see him being, Who Are You being the Genji player, you know what I mean? Doing something like that.
Or if it's double, if we see Doomfist Pharah, it would definitely be Libero and Who Are You entering at that point as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think he could see some playtime. Pine. The reason we never saw Pine last year is because he really only played Widowmaker and McCree, both of who were not viable all of last season. And who knows if they'll be viable for season 3? We just don't know that yet. But yeah, I do think he'll see some playtime.
Well, I think Pine at this point is backup main support until Mondu becomes of age.
Yeah, probably.
Since we know he's been practicing it. Whether or not it's Overwatch League capable, we do not know.
I feel he would be a good Ana. That's what I'm going with. That's just what I'm sticking to.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine Pine being like, all right, I'm just going to sit here and damage boost. And then float. Damage boost some more. I can't picture it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but good for them. Glad to see Who Are You are back in the Overwatch League. Not back, but in the Overwatch League.
Right. Because, for a while there, he was just kind of we didn't know what his status was. Yes, he was on Fusion Uni, but then it's oh, I'm going over here, I'm going over there. We honestly did not know, but he does finally land in the Overwatch League when all is said and done this off season. A lot of people subbing back today. Nice to see everyone back on that front. I mean, it is, kind of like the start of the month, so, it always helps on that front. But let's move into our main discussion for tonight, and that is the recent event that happened, which put all of the Overwatch League Chinese teams against one another in the Shanghai Masters Invitational. So, in this event, we basically saw the Spark going up against the Dragons. That was in the semifinals. And then we had the Chengdu Hunters going up against the Guangzhou Charge. Now, Ed, this was basically an event of sweeps. We had 3-0s in the semifinals, so we saw the Dragons emerge over the Spark. Hunters defeated the Charge. And then in the finals, it was Shanghai walking away with a 4-0 victory over the Chengdu Hunters. Granted, out of the 3 matches, that was probably the closer of the 3 based off of what we've seen, just because, Hunters always have that upset potential, but Shanghai were definitely on another level compared to the field on this front. Now, it's important to note, this is a show match, it is exhibition, but this was the first time we've gotten to see these teams with their off-season moves in play. Shanghai, they have a 12-man roster. We got to see their new tank. We got to see Li Gon. We got to see Lip. We got to see Fleta. And I have to say, early impressions, pretty damn good for Shanghai. They look like a unit, whereas a team like the Guangzhou Charge just looked like they haven't really practiced. They honestly felt really out of place in this event. But I will say, as a whole, the 2 standout players from the Shanghai Masters Invitational were definitely Lip from the Dragons, and probably Leave, who is on the Chengdu Hunters.
Yeah, I think Leave was probably the one I was looking forward to the most, because he's been hyped up for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And just now being able to actually play, because now that he's 18. So him and Jinmu, that was fun to see. That was a good, they have a good DPS lineup. But the Dragons, part of the reason they look so good is because of the flexibility. The DPS flexibility of being able to rotate Ding, Fleta, Lip, they're just we're just going to keep rotating them, and there's not going to be any drop off or anything like that. I will say it was fun to have the Overwatch League caliber players play again. With that said, it was insanely boring.
It was exhibition,
It was exhibition. It was on the old patch, what will be the old patch. Mm-hmm. So this is the last week we're going to see this meta, I believe. So that's gone. And honestly, they were just kind of getting everyone on stage. They're and they were even doing when the Hunters and Dragons were playing in the championship. They even were screw it, we're not going to do the meta, we're going to run straight up dive against each other. You know what I mean? So it was more cheeky and fun than anything. And it really it was nice to see. But if you're trying to get a preview of what's going to be happening, you're going to be disappointed. Because a lot of these teams, I mean, there might be additions to some of these teams that we just don't know about yet. We know Envy is probably going to be off Shanghai Dragons at some point. Will the Hanzo Spark sign anyone? Because I don't think they've signed anyone yet. But they've gotten rid of 2 people. You know what I mean? Rosters aren't even full yet, and they're facing each other. And I'm just this seems a bit premature. But again, it was still fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
On mute.
Unless you were on Dogman stream.
Even then, it was, at least you could I mean, I get it. It was in China, so it's going to be broadcast in Chinese, but we literally know no Chinese whatsoever. So like you're just hearing all this, the commentators like speaking Chinese throughout all that. We're like, yeah, no, I got nothing. Like this is just more distracting than actual anything.
Right.
So like I put it on mute and watched it.
At least in this situation, though, Ed, we had access to the VODs. Normally, in the
Yes.
other Chinese streams, it's on the Chinese streaming platforms, which are a pain in the ass to kind of like work your way through, and you don't have access to that sort of information. At least the Spark were nice enough to actually stream it on their channel, and of course, Dogman did English VODs on his. Which was entertaining in some regards in itself, just because like there were a lot of times where Dogman would just be getting so into it and be talking for so long, and then he would just start coughing, or the to start the stream like he was wearing a San Francisco Shock jersey, but they made him change out of that, otherwise he would have been fined. So like he had to put on like a hoodie over it, so he put on like a Playboy hoodie. I was wearing a hat. So it's just like, it was just some of those things. But I will say, like, I really enjoyed seeing Leave and Jinmu. Because, Leave did not get to play in the World Cup this year for China, which I was definitely disappointed by. Because, the last time we saw him was in the World Cup that prior year, where he had played, like, it was like, 21, 22 heroes?
Yeah.
So we didn't quite get that extent due to Rollock. Being introduced, obviously, but Leave did come out. We saw him on Sombra, we saw the Widowmaker, Doomfist, Reaper, Hanzo, Bastion. I'm not going to count Symmetra because that was only to use the teleporter out of the dropship, so that doesn't count as actual playtime in my book. But, I had to say, like, I really feel like Leaf's addition to Chengdu is going to open up so many more possibilities for Jinmu. And at least in this situation, Jinmu's Pharah was popping off, so maybe we'll see a level up of play from him going into the 2020 season, now that Leave is just going to be that Swiss Army knife on this DPS lineup.
Yeah, I really like the DPS lineup, but there are a lot of troublesome things with the Hunters besides that.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly the tank line. Like, the tank line is almost non-existent. In this meta, because you kind of saw it at the end of stage 4, and like you can have the best DPS in the world, but if you're running Jinmu on Pharah the whole time, all you need to do is switch to have one of your DPS go Widowmaker, and then that's the end of that. And then Jinmu's off his best hero, and then they're like, okay, well, we got Ball. All right, cool, sure, let's go with that. But it was really cool. We actually talked about the Spark,
mm-hmm.
and how they looked.
Yeah,
they look like they're just honestly they look like a team that hasn't been practicing on the old patch in weeks. And they've been practicing like on the PTR stuff or on the player whatever server that they have access to, and they're just like, crap, how do we play this again? So they're playing very tentatively going into it, and they got swept, but I by no means think that the Spark are going to be like a bad team this year.
Mm-hmm.
So be it. The Charge just didn't look good. I was not impressed by them at all, but that's going to be out of all the teams, they probably have like the biggest shakeup kind of thing, cause like bringing in Neptuno, and then you're adding more language barriers to the team, which is always an issue. It just always is. So they just have to work through some things.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but basically, like the key thing to take away was Lip's performance throughout this tournament. Who was entering the 2020 season as a rookie. This was someone who was just signed from Contenders Trials out of Korea, who was on Blossom, this past season. He was playing a lot of Reaper on this team. And he was kind of like the DPS player that wasn't getting subbed out. So he was always in the picture, and then they would work Fleta, Dean, and then I think Diem only ended up playing one map in the series. And that was like when they were playing Dive in this situation. So, Diem not seeing a ton of play on that front. So we'll have to see whether or not that is going to be a constant theme going into the next season. But, we did get our first look at Stand 1 on the Dragons at the main tank position. Heck, we even saw Gaguri stepping in at main tank as well, playing the Orisa when she was paired with Void. So we got a couple of different looks from them on that front. So, if they sign another main tank or not remains to be seen, but it does seem like they do have a plan in place should they need to sub Stand 1 out, so Gaguri will be filling in on that role in particular.
Yeah, it's you'd never know what's like. You don't know if this is the actual plan or if this will be they just wanted to get everyone out there. Like, you just don't know. So, did Envy even play?
If he did, I do not recall seeing him.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him. So, I mean, awkward. Everyone's playing except you.
Basically.
So you're gonna be gone. But you know what? It's just a sign of the times. We're 60 days away from the start of. Sorry, 65 days away from the start of the Overwatch League. So it's just around the corner, people. We can do it. Oh yeah, it's on Valentine's Day, isn't it? I don't remember anymore.
Let's see. February 8th.
Okay, so it's earlier. So, yeah. Yay.
We're getting close.
It's almost back. Which means OWO by the numbers will be back soon.
Which will be sooner than the Overwatch League season. Spoilers. Probably like...
Spoiler alert.
Probably like roughly a month from now. Seems about right.
Probably beginning of January is probably when we'll start doing some breakdown episodes, because you got to have your draft before the season starts.
And that's when the shit talking of foul play continues.
Bum bum bum.
But anyways, there's really not too much to note from this event. If you want to check it out, we will have either Twitch link up for you. You probably want to check out the English VOD more so than the Chinese one, unless you just want to watch it muted. I mean, it is an option too. You got either the Hunter Spark link or the Dogman casted one, which I will have timestamps so you know when exactly in the stream it was, so you don't have to sit through all the other hours that he was streaming prior to that.
Yeah, like I started watching and I'm like, when is it? This is a 12-hour stream. So I'm just like fast forwarding and I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is.
Yeah, and I will note too, I noticed on a Hanjo Spark stream, one of the broadcasts was just some running ads for 8 hours or something.
Nice.
Right? So don't click on that one. That's definitely not the right one.
Yeah, that would get real boring real quick.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's time to call it. I mean, really not too much else going on. It was a slower news week because of the holiday. And really not too much else to touch up on. Obviously next week we'll have more to talk about because of the patch 1.34 drop in. We'll recap all of the balance changes on that front. Take a look at all the Winter Wonderland goodness and or terribleness if we're talking about the brawls, because Lord knows they're not going to make any changes on that front because they never do anyway. But with that being said, we are going to call it a night here. So if you guys want to help us out, the best thing to do is to head over to iTunes or your podcast app of choice and leave us a review, written out when preferred. So any sort of feedback or constructive criticism is always welcome, just because we are always looking for ways to improve the show to make for a better listening experience. Now, if you would like to find additional Overwatch-related content, of course, we have our podcast directory, which focuses entirely on all aspects of Overwatch. That is Overwatch Recall, which you can find on our website. And then every Sunday night, we do the weekly recall, which lists basically all the episodes that were released for the week prior across the different Overwatch podcasts. So to stay up to date on all of that stuff, be sure to follow Recall on Twitter at OWRecall. Now, of course, we do have a podcast network, so you can support us a couple of different ways. We do stream a couple of nights on Twitch. We'll be back to like 3 shows a week, basically, within the next month or so. So any Twitch Prime subs are greatly appreciated. Otherwise, it's $4.99 for like a normal sub on Twitch. And then we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network, where we have tiers starting at just $1 a month. So any little bit you throw our way, guys, it definitely helps, especially when we keep adding stuff. So with that being said,
Right.
you can join the likes of our master and above patrons of Blazin' Bob, Brendan, JZ, Owl, and Kesha in helping our network grow. So thank you again, everyone, for all of that continued support. We greatly appreciate it. Same with everyone who keeps stopping by our Twitch streams every single night. We love you guys. But with that being said, Ed, we do have a number of different ways how our listeners and our viewers can get a hold of us. So why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
All right. So you can email us over at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at hndoverwatch. We do have a website where we post everything, and that's at www.owlnshow.com. We do put all our stuff on YouTube as well, and that's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. You can come over to our Discord channel and chit chat with us there, and that is discord.me/OWLNshow. Like Totem had said, we do stream pretty regularly on Twitch, so that's at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, so come help the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Our podcast network does stream, like you said, pretty regularly. Monday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, we have the Overwatch League Network. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, starting up again next month, will be OWL by the Numbers, our fantasy OWL show. Then on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, we have this show, is Heroes Never Die, the variety Overwatch show. And then host streams when available, run on a flex schedule, so be sure to follow us to be notified when we go live. We do also have the Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network, so go over there and help support us even further. You can contact me personally on Twitter at @EdinarOverwatch, or you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Edinar, where I stream Battlegrounds and listen to Christmas music and swear at it.
He's swearing at Battlegrounds, not at the Christmas music.
No, I'm singing the Christmas music and then swearing at the Battlegrounds. But Totem, where can they find you at?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. That is at TotallyDrunkCTR. Then I also stream Monday through Thursday on Twitch at twitch.tv/TotallyDrunk. Now, with that being said, guys, just as a reminder, in case you missed it, Edinar and I recently started a new Hearthstone podcast, that being Tavern Tales, which is focusing on the Hearthstone Battlegrounds. And, we've kind of had a couple of weeks where we've had to start a couple minutes late, because both parties, at this point, we're in the middle of a game. So apologies on that front. Sometimes, things just run longer.
And also, whenever we like, our new Hearthstone podcast, Tavern Tales, I want to go Tavern Tales, woo, do 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 do.
Yeah.
And then jump into a giant vault full of gold coins.
Yeah. While eating a bowl of, plutonium spaghetti. Yeah.
Yes, plutonium-infused spaghetti here. Oh, God. But yes, check that out. We'll be posting that in our Twitters and on our Discord. We'll probably post something about it and all that fun bejazzle. We will not be streaming it live.
Yet.
And I secretly think this is so... I secretly think that we'll both be playing Battlegrounds while we're recording. Neither one of us is going to deny it either. So, but yes, that will be out. Our episode should be out Friday at this point, because we'll record tomorrow, post it, and then it should be up rather quickly. because we are set up in iTunes and all that fun bejazzle. So go check that out.
Right, at Tavern Tales HS on Twitter. But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for us on Heroes Never Die. You've been listening to episode number 188. I've been your host, Simply Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-host, Edinar, and we hope to see you guys back on Monday for the next episode of Overwatch League Network with my newer co-hosts, Anura and Booker. Guys, take care, and have a good night.
Bye.